it's really enjoyable when you tune into the first match and it's about 4:40 in the morning, and Liverpool concede their first corner, and then concede their first goal of the season with that corner. Really great way to lift your spirit when you're all that tired. Um, and so I want to start with that because a corner was an issue later on in the match for the tying goal in the 93rd minute. So I want to start with that. And let's go back to the starting lineups for that first of all, because I just want to talk about the height of each player. So Simon Mignolet is 6'4", no issues there. Alberto Moreno is 5'7", Dejan Lovren is 6'2", Joe Matip is 6'5", Trent Alexander-Arnold is 5'10", Jorginho Wijnaldum is 5'9", Emre Can and Jordan Henderson are both 6 feet, Mane and Salah are both 5'9", and Firmino is 5'11". And I think that's important to mention their heights because of the corners, especially when you compare it to Watford, who have every single player above 6 feet, except for Amrabat, who's 5'11", and Cleverley, who's 5'9", which is still taller than most Liverpool players, which is seemed to be an issue on corners and stuff like that. But when you looked at the first corner of the game, the height difference wasn't the issue. It was the zonal marking. And so zonal marking is, there's two ways to guard a corner. You can do zoned or man marking. Man marking is when you just stick one guy on one guy and he follows him around and he just tries to stick with the one man. Zonal coverage is when every player has a specific area zone that they need to cover on the corner, and everyone covers their zone, and so then all the space is covered and hopefully they won't score, which against Liverpool they will. Although to be fair, Arsenal actually their winning goal with Olivier Giroud yesterday in the first match against Leicester was also because of zonal marking. So it's not just Liverpool had this issue, but it may be exacerbated by our lack of height. So the issue with the lack of issue, in my opinion, with the height is that when you look at the goal, you saw Matip kind of rise, and then Firmino just watch. And Okaku 6'1", he did get right in there, but he wasn't bothered at all. I mean, he could have been like 5'8", 5'5", no one was there. It really didn't matter about his height. It was about Liverpool switching off, which is something we say a lot. And so this is why I want to talk about the zonal marking, which I think is a catastrophe for Liverpool, as well as other teams, but it really is a catastrophe for Liverpool. I'm going to bring this to American football as well, and for anyone concerned, I'm calling it football here and American football because I like to use the correct terminology. But in American football, you have the quarterback who throws the ball, and you have other players, the wide receivers, the tight ends, and the running backs. They can go and catch the ball. And the other team will try and stop them from catching the ball, and they'll do it in two ways, with man marking or zonal coverage. And it's the same sort of problems arise. With man marking, you can be beaten because a player is outclassed. Maybe the attacking player is much taller and faster, or the defensive player is just too slow or just not quick enough to keep up with the guy. But so then a lot of teams will switch to a zone. And the problem with a zone is you have to sit back in your zone, and you kind of just have to react and then go forward. And in each zone, no matter what you do, there will always be some gap that another player on the opposing side can fill and then score on you from, which is a major issue in that sport, which is why they're transitioning away from zone coverage, because it's just, you can't win with that, because players can easily exploit the space in between the zones. But in the Premier League, for some reason, Liverpool have continued to use zonal marking, even though it's struggled. We've struggled with it for a long time. And I know Jurgen Klopp has said that we don't have the height for it. But again, if we're not even jumping for the ball, then height can't be an issue. Firmino watched, and Matip just kind of didn't notice anything was going on. So, and Matip is 6'5", so there's no issue with height there. Firmino's 5'11", that's tall enough. So it's not an issue of physical ability, it's about mental ability. And so my problems with the zonal marking is that, yes, there's space available, and the fact that it causes hesitation and uncertainty, because some players, maybe more aggressive, would want to lunge forward into another zone, and then suddenly leave a gap. And then some players want to stay in their gap. And the problem with that is it causes a lot of uncertainty and hesitance, because you don't know if you want to take the initiative and go for the header, or then suddenly the space will be empty behind you, and a player can easily jump in there if you miss that header, or if the ball bounces in to someone else's path. So it it just causes too many uncertainties in a player's mind, and it can lead them to being shut out. For Firmino looked at Matip and thought it was his fault, which it probably was Firmino because Firmino didn't even challenge him. He was left flat-footed, but then that's the kind of thing that happens. It was probably both of their faults, and the problem was there was a gap in the zone between them, and neither of them filled it because neither was sure what to do. Um, and another problem with the zonal marking is if you're in this zone and I'm supposed to stay on the edge of the 6 yard box, and then you have Okaka running in and charging. He has a lot of momentum built up to jump for that ball and just smash it with a bullet header, and it was a perfect header. Everything was great about it for them, but that was the problem with the zonal marking, because you saw Firmino was flat-footed. Matip couldn't really do anything, and so if without just a standing jump, it's much harder to get at the height that you need to block some of these balls going in. And then man marking can also cause issues with just running around and being confused and stuff. But at the very least, we'll have players in the right spot. And I know it may be worse. I may be wrong. We may just be awful at corners for the rest of history. But in my opinion, it's better to fail because of the physical issues that you have for the lack of height, which can be changed based on substitutes like Marko Grujic, Dominic Solanke, and other players coming back, or new signings, which we won't talk about, but just for example. But a mental inability, you can't really overcome that. We've shown we can't do that. So at this point, I think it's time to try. I'd rather see a player who's much short, not maybe much shorter, but lose a matchup 1-on-1 than see no player challenge for the ball, an uncontested header versus at least a contested header, even if it wasn't very well contested, because at least that shows we're trying to do something about it. So it just doesn't make sense to me to keep doing the zonal marking. So at the very least, I think we had to fight for that ball. And if Moreno at 5'7" is against Okaka, the ball's going into the goal. But at least there's a less chance of it going in than Okaka versus nobody. So that's what I have to say about zonal marking. So